Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Maths Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. We're going to be talking about exponential function today. I'm going to give a brief overview. Like I always say, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and also click the notification bell so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first person to know. All right, let's go straight to exponential functions. So exponential functions is basically a mathematical function, usually denoted by EX. You see something like this, or some textbook will write it as exponential of what? X, okay? So this is a mathematical function, all right? So because I know some of you do write, I'm going to write this down so that you can take notes. So the exponential function, okay, the exponential function is a mathematical function. It's a mathematical function denoted by EX, okay? Or some textbook will write it as exponential of X, okay? So there are a number of rules known as the laws of exponential function that we'll talk about. Currently, for this video series, I'm going to just talk about the 10 laws, okay? So I'm going to list down the 10 laws of exponential function. So we have about 10. All right, so I'm going to talk about the 10 laws. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list all the 10 laws here, okay? Now, these laws are similar to the laws of indices. So I'm going to list them here. Then what I'm going to do in the next video series or the subsequent videos, I'm going to just be listing, explaining each and every one of them, okay? So I'm going to start with the first one. I'll list the 10 of them. Then the next video will be on the first law, then the subsequent one, second, and that way, and we'll keep on going. So the 10 laws, the first one we have is what we call the product law. Okay, the product law. The product law is exponential of A multiplied by exponential of B. So what we have something like this, what I'm trying to say is something like exponential of A multiplied by exponential of B. So you can write it like this, or you can also write it like exponential of A multiplied by exponential of B. So they're all the same thing, okay? Now, what happens is that when you have two exponential functions being multiplied together, is equal to exponential of A plus B, okay? Then the same thing with division law, number 2, division law. So in this case, if you have exponential of A divided by exponential of B, this is going to be exponential of A minus B. So the first one is the product law. Now the second one is the division law. Number 3 is what we call, or what I call, the inverse law. Okay? Now, the inverse law, if you have exponential of minus A. Now, this is similar to the laws of indices. So I remember I told you in the laws of indices that 1 over, I told you that A raised to the power minus M is equal to 1 over A raised to the power M in the laws of indices. We talked about this earlier. So it's exactly the same thing here. So it's going to be 1 over exponential of what? A. All right, so number 4, okay, so we've talked about the product law. We talked about the division law, so you're multiplying two exponential functions together. Then division law, where you're dividing two exponential function. Inverse law, similar to the laws of indices. So number 4 is what I call the natural logarithm. The natural logarithm and exponential law. Okay, so what it says is that when you have exponential of ln xy is equal to what? Xy. Okay? So when you have exponential of ln xy is equal to what? Xy. So that means basically what I'm trying to say is that when you have exponential ln xy, okay, the exponential cancels out the ln, and that will give you xy. Okay, that's what the law is saying. Don't worry, I will have a video on this. Number 5, the next one is what we call the power of power law. The power of power law. The exponential of a multiplied by b will be giving you a times b, exponential of what? ab. Okay, so the power of power law, what you do is that when you have this, you just multiply the powers together. It's similar to the laws of indices we talked about, where I told you a raised to power m multiplied by a raised to power n is equal to a raised to power mn. So we talked about this earlier, right? So in the laws of indices. So the power of power law is similar to that as well, okay? Then number 6 is what we call the logarithm of exponential law. So what we are saying is that the ln of an exponential, or the log of e to base e, is equal to 1. So similarly, like what we said here, the way exponential cancels out the ln, the same thing as well. When we have the ln and exponential, they both cancel themselves out, okay? All right. And also, similar to the laws of logarithm. So please go back to my video on the laws of logarithm. I told you that when the base and the value in front of the log are the same thing, it's equal to 1. Okay, so I told you when you have, I told you log a to base a, or you have log b to base b is equal to what? 1. I told you this, okay? So it's exactly the same thing. So when the base and the number, the base of the log and the number in front of it are the same thing, then that will be equal to 1. Number 7. The next one is power of zero law. Okay? Power of zero. So what it means is that exponential of 0 is equal to what? 1. So anything raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So similarly, we talked about this in the laws of indices, where I said x raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1, or a raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So anything raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So similarly as well for exponent, you also get the same thing as well. All right, so let's go to the next one, number 8. Number 8 is called the fractional power law. Okay, fractional power law. So it's e exponential of x over p is equal to the p roots of exponential of x. Are you seeing it? The p root of exponential of x. So this is similar to what I told you when I said a is by m over n, if you remember this. So I told you that in the laws of indices, I said this is equal to the mth root of a raised to the power n, okay? The mth root of a raised to the power n. So you can see in this case, it's similar or exactly to the laws of indices. Then number 9 is what we call the derivative law. The derivative law is how do you differentiate. So I've talked about how to differentiate in the previous video, so please go back and have a look at that. Okay, so if we have if y is equal to ex, I told you how to differentiate this in the previous video. What you do is that you have the to find the dy over dx. What you do, you differentiate the power, and if you differentiate x, it's going to give you 1 multiplied by the original question, and that will give you e raised to the power x. So I've talked about how to differentiate exponential function in previous video series. So you can go back and have a look. So if, for instance, we have y is equal to kx, the same thing, the dy over dx will be the same thing. You differentiate the power. When you differentiate kx, it's going to give you k multiplied by the original questions, which is e kx, and that will give you what? K e kx. Okay? And the last law that we talk about is the integral law. I've talked about this earlier as well in my integration video series. So you can go back and have a look. So if you're integrating e raised to the power x in respect to dx. So I told you the same thing. You're going to differentiate the power, which is ex. Sorry, you differentiate the power that is x, and that will give you 1. So it will be ex divided by 1 plus c. So if this is an indefinite integral, I also explained the concept of indefinite and definite integral. So please go back and look at it. So that will give you ex plus c. All right. So the same thing, if you have an exponential of kx in respect to dx, it's going to be the same thing. You differentiate the power here, and that'll give you k. So it's going to be e kx divided by what? K plus c. And that will be the answer for that. Okay, so that are the 10 laws that we're going to talk about in this series. I'm going to go through each and every one. So the next video, I'm going to start with the product law, all right? So I'll go to product law, then I'll move on to the next and keep on going that way. So that is why it's important that you click the notification bell and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first person to know. So I'm going to see you in the next video where we're going to talk about the product law, and we're going to take each of these laws individually and pick some examples. All right. So I'm going to see you in the next video. All right. See you soon.